You're listening to the Personal Development Through Martial Arts podcast, the podcast where the world's highest personal development experts and martial arts masters come together to empower and inspire you to become your strongest self and live the life that you truly want. Join host Bogdan Rosu, author, public speaker, and the founder of the first personal development through martial arts school in the world, in the podcast where you become the hero. Tony Whatley is a serial entrepreneur, business consultant, and startup mentor. Tony is also an accomplished speaker and writer and has had his works published in numerous magazines and books. I'm really excited to sit down and pick his brains on making more money, having success, and pursuing your passion. So give me a hand in welcoming Tony Whatley. We're here with Tony Whatley, and I'm super excited to ask him a bunch of questions. He said that he will answer all the questions that I'm going to be throwing at him, so we're in for a treat. Tony, how are you today?
Great, and good to connect with you online, and hope to really engage with some of your listeners.
That's awesome. Tell us a bit about how you started out. You're very successful. You're passionate about fast cars, right? You're a published author, speaker. But did you when you started? Did you think oh my God, I want to be a speaker. I want to be in this position that you are in today?
Absolutely not. If you were to go back and trace me through my childhood, through junior high and high school, I was actually more shy. I tried to fit in more, and I tried to do things not to stand out, because we're told as children that if you stand out, you're going to get picked on, you'll get bullied and things like that. So we're just told to dress like your friends, watch the shows that your friends watch, speak like your friends, get the same haircuts as your friends, and try to fit into this sheep mentality herd of protection by numbers. And then you start to realize as you become an adult that, hey, look at all these successful people. They're not the ones that fit into the herd. They're actually the ones stepping out and being outstanding. The literal version of the word outstanding is to stand apart from the crowd, and to take a stance and actually share their opinions and be themselves and be that unique version of whoever they are. And when you can become more confident like that, that's what's going to drive you. But no, I did not ever think I was going to be a public speaker. I enjoyed books. I've always admired authors. I always thought that'd be cool to write a book someday. So I've read a lot of books, my entire life. But yeah.
When was the first time? When was the shift for you when you said, you know what, I don't want to be just like everybody else. I want to do my own thing. When did that happen for you?
I would say sometime in my late 20s is when I started to really think about where I was going in life. And I put myself through college. I've got a mechanical engineering degree, and I had that job. And the thing is when you go to school full time and you work full time like I did, it took me 7 years to finish school. So I was just really busy for that long period of time, because I was working out in a chemical plant out in the sun, and I'd get off work and I'd go to school at nighttime and study it late at night. And I was only sleeping 4 hours a day for this period of 5 to 7 years. It was miserable. A lot of people talk about their college experience and how great it was and partying. And I was like, that's not how I saw it. It was terrible. I was broke, sleep deprived, stressing out about school and money, two bad things to stress about. And then when I finally graduated and got a job, I was like, man, I have all this free time now. I'm not used to having all the, what is this getting off at 5 o'clock stuff? What am I going to do in the evening? And I said, I could do a lot more with my time. So that's when I started creating businesses on the side in my late 20s and doing things on the weekends. And I enjoyed my life. My 20s with an engineering salary, being single in your late 20s, you can have a pretty fun life, believe me. But I always wanted more. I was I'm looking at my boss and his boss, and they're 10, 20 years down the road from where I was sitting at that point. And they didn't neither of them had the life that I desired. So that told me everything I needed to know. It's hey, corporate level. If you're looking at your supervisors on the next 3 levels, that's your career path at that kind of company or that industry. So you have to understand if those people that are currently in those roles do not have the life or anything that you envy, and you need to be doing something else.
Definitely. Have you ever trained martial arts?
Only as a child. I did judo for a year.
Okay. That's not a lot of experience, but still, it's something. How old were you when you did martial arts?
I was probably 11 or 12. And what I did learn was that, yeah, you couldn't be Billy Badass like Bruce Lee, like we all idolized when I was a kid, but you could learn discipline. And what I understand with judo, actually, a lot of things I learned in that year applied to my early childhood and even into like high school playing sports.
Hmm.
Because with judo, as you know, it's all about redirecting energy. So when
Yes.
somebody's coming to attack you, it's all about, transferring weight and grabbing them by the gi and like sidestepping them. And I've had to do that a few times in my life, but it also, when I started doing these extreme sports like skateboarding and BMX and
Mhm.
motocross and playing football, like it taught me how to fall down, as silly as that sounds. Like anytime you fall, you can roll out of it and the energy is like dissipated.
That's
So it
very
definitely
powerful.
helped.
It's very
Yeah.
powerful, yeah. And especially in judo, you need a very stable structure. Your legs need to be very grounded, and you need to understand when to give. And I love your analogy that you said, you know what, learning how to fall down is a huge asset in judo, right? Otherwise, you're gonna break something.
That's right.
How did
And
you
roll out of it, roll out of it, roll out of it. That's all we ever told us, just roll out of it. And
Mhm.
I get tackled in football. I played fullback, so I'd be carrying the ball. I get smashed, and then instead of just face planting, I could just roll out of things, and
Yeah.
it kept me from getting injury.
How would you see that in business? That how would you take that specific concept in business?
Man, that's like giving me chills to talk about because I never even like thought about that analogy, but it makes a lot of sense. Like when you can learn to fall down and get back up without injury, that's
Roll
maybe,
with it.
maybe that kind of mindset's been programmed in me since I was a kid, and I just didn't
Mhm.
realize that. But yeah, I can't recall ever falling down in business or success and not getting back up ready to go again.
That's interesting, huh? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, good point.
Something that we talk about in our personal development through martial arts school is that the mind is the body. What you do with your body is what you do with your mind, and consequently, the way that you approach life. So, yeah, I don't know. To me, it makes a lot of sense that you would have come into contact with this concept so soon, and it just stuck with you, and you used it into your business. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I still remember from that sensei was that as I was very competitive as a child, so you want to come into martial arts and you want to like show off and like get better and like try to
Mhm.
be better than everyone else. But what
Yes.
I learned was the discipline of that you're not ready for that. You're not ready for that. You needed to really hone in on your skills and just control that until we can get you ready for it. So it kind of gave me a little bit of discipline on the patience side of things. Like you're not going to see instant results, and don't act like you're better than you actually are. It's just, it's going to come with time. You had to prove yourself rather than just claim that you're the best.
Yes, definitely. You know, something like in Wing Chun, the martial arts that I teach, you need to be strong, fast, but also sensitive, right? And I was reading this article, and the guy was saying, you know, I'm ready. I want to learn the weapons, and the teacher said, "You're not sensitive enough." He was like, "What are you talking about? What is this, group therapy? What do you mean I'm not sensitive enough?" Yeah. So you definitely need to understand this aspect of patience and developing that kind of feeling. Would you say that you have an advanced feeling for when it comes to business and managing money, managing teams, understanding assets?
I would say that anything in business or leadership, I've definitely invested a lot of time and knowledge and practice and had a lot of failures in those kind of regards, but I've always just kept learning. Even today, I mean, I don't ever think I'm going to quit learning. I hope that I never run out of information to learn, to be honest, because that would be a really boring life. But I think that with business, I've always taken a big picture. And what I've learned through my career, and I give your listeners an idea, I'll be 46 next week. So that kind of gives you an idea of how long I've been in the industry and doing things. But what I've learned is as I've progressed through life, I've been able to take a bigger step backwards and see a larger picture of how everything operates. So when you're very young, you're focused on what your task is, and you just can only have these blinders on what you're working on in that moment. But you don't realize how that contribution to a company affects the other departments or the other ends of the company or the
Yeah.
bottom line. And
Hmm.
as you gain more experience, you start to master little pieces of it, and you can take a bigger step back and
Mm.
become more aware of how everything has an effect on everything else at the other end. And then even then you can take even bigger steps back because now you're not even looking inside your company, you're looking at the industry or perhaps the economics of the place you live in. There's all
Hmm.
these factors can go back to that. It's like the butterfly effect, right? One
Yeah.
little thing can change so many things down the line. And that's what I think experience has gotten me, really just that focus to be able to think about bigger picture things now.
I love that. Tony, tell us a bit about, your failures as well. Everybody talks about their success and how fancy their lives are, but share with us, a moment where you thought that, what, I don't think I can make it. And how did you roll with that experience?
I would say that I'm a quick, I recover quickly. I just don't really dwell on failures too much because a lot of people will let their failures define who they are going forward. But I'm a firm believer that you don't trip on anything behind you when you're walking forward. So it's just, you just got to like keep moving forward. And I would say that, you know, actual failures or ideas, like I don't really have like these big, giant stories of failure. I've learned that, I guess one of the most costly failures you could say, but I think of it as a lesson rather than a failure, was
Mhm.
that large corporations can bully small companies with a legal process
Mhm.
that can cost you thousands and thousands of dollars and months of your time and added stress. And you'll find that corporate bullying does exist. There's companies out there that will sue you or send you cease and desist and do these kind of things just because they can
Mhm.
afford to do that, because they have a lawyer that's full time on staff that they can just create letters all day and do that stuff and harass you. You can
Interesting.
find that you will discover that there are people in companies out there that do that. And until something like that happens to you, you're kind of unaware, like, I'm doing everything right. Like, I'm not going to get sued. But then you realize, like, there's people who have unethical things that do that.
And how did you manage that situation?
Well, at first, I wanted to fight like anybody. It puts you in a defensive stance, and you want to fight back because you
Mm.
you you know that you're right, and you know that you can win. And then you start talking to your own lawyer, and your lawyer's like, "Hey, I think you can win." And you're like, "Awesome!" And then they go, "Hey, it's going to cost about $150,000 to prove you're right." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Holy crap!" And about 3 years of your life. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, wow, it's like, man, I'm just not even interested in that at all. It's like, because that gets me, well, I'm going to spend $150,000 just to say I'm right.
Mhm. Mhm.
And like, and
Definitely.
the corporate companies that do that kind of nonsense, they know that you're not going to spend that. So they can do this thing to try to make you stop with whatever you're doing.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Sometimes it's just better to um, just let go of it. Yeah. In most cases, it's just like something else much, much better is just waiting around the corner if you let go of that experience. Um,
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that also applies to self-defense, like things that's like walk away. Sometimes you got to know when to,
mhm.
which battles to fight. And you'll find the guys with the most
Right.
discipline are the toughest guys, are usually the ones with the most discipline, because they can just, they can understand. They're like, hey, there's no upside to this. Like, what the
Yeah,
hell am I doing?
definitely. There's no winner in a street fight.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Tony, you built this amazing community around an amazing community of people who are passionate about cars. How did that come about?
Well, I've always been a car fanatic, even as a child, and internet forums back in the late 90s, early 2000s were the thing, because this was pre-Facebook. There was no social media back then. So
Mhm.
the social aspect of the internet originally started on, Web 1.0, which was chat rooms.
Mhm.
And then that evolved into forums where people can go find specialized hobbies and things like that based on each forum. And so a few of us were members on another forum, car forum that we had. We enjoyed General Motors performance cars, so Firebirds, Camaro, Corvette, things like that. And the site that we were hanging out on just wasn't operating very well. It was like slow and laggy, like they weren't upgrading the software, the hardware, and the site kept crashing and deleting all the hard work, because we're producing content. We're making how-to articles, we're
Mhm.
making, racing tips and writing blog type things, and we were producing all this content, and it would get deleted. So when you spend a lot of time and hours delivering this free content to build something, and the steward of that information is not taking care of it, and it
Can be
keeps getting deleted.
frustrating.
And
Mhm.
it happened a couple of times, and we finally said, "Hey, why don't you just pay your bills? Like, we know you got sponsors, we know you're making money here. Like, why don't you stay ahead of that?" And
Mhm.
the guy got defensive about that, and he threw an attitude at us. He said, "If you guys think you can do a better job, start your own site." And until he said that, it never even occurred to us that, hey, we could start our own site, until he challenged us. And when you challenge a bunch of people who are helping you and they're
Mm.
supporting you, and they're driven, and they're very confident type people, and you challenge them, it's like, that's never going to work out in your favor. So that's what we did, is like, I don't know how to start a site. We can figure it out. So I had one partner in Chicago, and he reached out, and we're like, hey, let's just figure this out. We can do this. Like, it's not rocket science. It's hiring a server, creating, buying a software package, installing it, and flipping a bunch of switches to get it going, right? So that's all it really was. And originally we're like, hey, it's just want to be a cool place that's going to be stable and have a place that's going to, respect the work that people are putting into it, and take care of the customers and the sponsors.
Was it like, because of your passion for cars, would you say that this was your driver for, building businesses, growing? Like, was it one day I'm going to own a Ferrari, so I'm going to do anything that I need to get there?
Honestly, I think it had more to do with, it was something fun, and it felt like you were something that you had control over, because you realize I was in my late 20s, so I wasn't getting any kind of authority or really hard responsibilities at work at that point. So I was really just under somebody's thumb and somebody's decision the entire time. And it was a great way for me to be creative, because I love to draw and paint and do these things. Well, creating graphics on the internet was just like the next, thing to do, is like another canvas for me. And I started teaching myself how to create web pages and all this kind of stuff. So that's why the partner and I came together. It's like, you've already created web pages. That's like a start. It's like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense. And I was doing that for side money. I was building web pages for like local businesses here in the Houston area. But we did it because it was a passion. We actually had really low goals when we initially started it. I remember having this conversation with John. And I was like, hey, if we can make $500 each per month, that would pay for our car. That's like a really low goal, and honestly, that's how the side hustle community nowadays still thinks. They still think in like hundreds of dollars, and it's terrible, because nowadays technology, you should be thinking of thousands or tens of $1,000s per month if you do things right. So we thought really small, but it was a passion thing. And that's really what took off, is because we had passion. It never felt like work. We were building something, and other people could see that we had the passion for it. So they just kept supporting it. We're getting these sponsors coming in and spending ad revenue. I mean, even at the end of the day, General Motors and Cadillac were advertising on our website. So that kind of shows you, when when you become basically recognized by the brand you built it around, and they're giving you money. It's like, this is incredible. And honestly, it was like 3 months in, we were already making our $500 a month goal. And we're like, woo, like awesome, we got a free car. And it just cascaded, man. It just grew. And when we sold that website, we were making like $40,000 profit per month. And this was early 2000s. This isn't like 2018 dollars.
I feel like, the best businesses are built when you're just having fun, and you're not pressuring yourself. Oh my God, I need to do this. I need to prove myself. I need to, like, when there's no need, you're just doing it for the fun of it. It's like, oh my God, yeah, that's awesome. I made $500 this month. It's amazing. This works. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think money always follows passion. I see money as the result of something, not it doesn't need to be their destination. Like, a lot of people focus too much on, how am I going to make money? How am I going to make money? How am I going to make money? And if money is your only reason, it's going to lead you on the wrong path, because you're going to start looking for the easiest path to that money. And then it's going to feel like work, because it's a lot of times those easier paths are not something you're interested in. You see somebody else with success in that field, and you're like, oh, he's making money or she's making money, I can do that. But it's not like in your heart, and you don't believe in that product or that service. And so you waste your time. If you waste like 1 or 2 years going down this wrong road, chasing that dollar, it's going to feel like work, man. It's no different than showing up at an office every day and sitting in a cubicle, because you're not enjoying what you're doing.
Hey, sorry to interrupt the interview. I'll let you get back to it in a moment. Let me just ask you, do you want more financial freedom in your business so that you have time for the important things in your life? Would you like to level up your business and become a black belt in business success? Let me help you. I will personally take a look at your business and show you exactly how you can make it more profitable so that you enjoy more financial freedom and more time with your loved ones. Get in touch with me over social media. Links are in the description. Send me a message with the text Business Breakthrough, and we will schedule an appointment, and you will get a free coaching session where I teach you exactly how to make your business more profitable without putting in more hours. And this is going to be only for the first 5 people who get in touch with me this week. So check the description, get in touch with me on social media, send me a message with the text Business Breakthrough, and let me help you take your business to the next level. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Tony, what would you feel are some side hustles that are worth starting today? I mean, probably building a web page for somebody is not necessarily feasible because you have so many free and so many very, very affordable services like Wix. Like you can build Squarespace, you can build your website like very, very easily. What would you say would be a good side hustle that maybe the people listening could, get into and start looking into?
I think success is all based on sales. That's the simplest form. It's like whatever you can sell that
Mm-hmm.
can scale. And even bonus points is if it has some kind of recurring revenue, like a membership type thing, or just if you got money coming in every single month, bills based on what you're selling, some kind of residuals, or
Mm-hmm.
like even writing the book. I mean, it hit number one bestseller, but that's only for a couple of weeks. That's how all books are. You can't be number one forever, right?
Yeah.
So, but even then, it gave it enough boost where it had enough reach on Amazon, and even the residuals, I still make over $1,000 a month just from that book. And all that, and I haven't done anything like since May. I launched it and I mentioned it a few times. Like I go
Mm-hmm.
do my public speaking events and I mention it
Mm-hmm.
on these podcast interviews and I'll mention it. So it's not like you're putting a lot of effort into it after it's produced, but I still get a check for over $1,000 every month just from that. So you realize there's a few authors out there that have 10, 20 books. And if they're getting $1,000 from every book, there's a residual income type thing that
Mm-hmm.
it takes effort to do that. Anything worthwhile takes effort, but a lot of times they just keep paying you out at the back end. So think about things that you have special knowledge in or a special skill, or maybe you have the resources or tooling or something that, that most people don't have and you can do something. But what I really want the people to focus on is getting away from thinking about trading dollars for hours.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's the employee mindset. That's the kiss of death. You'll never become successful when you start thinking about what you're worth per hour,
Mm-hmm.
because you only have finite amount of hours per day.
Yes. Yes. I was talking to a coach earlier today, and I don't know, so many coaches are into this trap of charging per hour. Like, what's the difference? Like you've been working, you've been an employee, and now you're a coach, and you're doing the same thing. Like that doesn't make sense. People don't
Exactly. I mean,
like.
and that's what we fall into as a coach. I have an hourly rate for my clients. I work with one-on-one, but that's the only way you can really charge for that business model.
Yes.
But the real revenue is going to be coming from the online courses or the public speaking or
Mm-hmm.
writing that book that hits the New York Times bestseller. I mean, if one influencer were to share something you created, like let's say Oprah or some big name influencers, like, hey, this book's awesome. That instant could change your life.
Mm-hmm.
If Ellen invited you to her show because someone in her staff saw your book and you were a host on there, it's like that would change your life.
What inspired you to write your book?
Just being able to multiply the amount of people I can reach with the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and the story I have. I mean, it's a very bold title, Side Hustle
That's a big one.
Millionaire,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of times, actually, I didn't want to name it that. I thought it was too presumptuous at first. And the
Yeah.
guy I hired to do the marketing, he's like, dude, that's your story. Like nobody has that story. Like you have to own that story. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to offend people. I didn't want to come off like, oh, who's this guy made $1 million? And, because people have that negative connotation for people with success. And I was never that. I've always been more humble about things. And I never want to be like, oh, blah, blah. But, after speaking with him and he's like, dude, that is your story. Like you have to own that story. And that really started to think about it. I was like, man, that is my story. Like, I don't know anybody else that made millions of dollars like as a hobby. I don't. I
Mm-hmm.
really don't. And I was like, shit, that's it. That's the way it's got to be. So we made that the title, and honestly, I have zero regrets. I think it's incredible because that's what makes my book stand out from the others. When you go to Amazon and you're looking for side hustles or startup or things like this
Yeah.
book, like all these are like $100. You can do this. Like you can make $200 a month, and like that blows my mind. It's like the side hustle community thinks way too damn small
Mm-hmm.
compared to what's reality. Like if you set your goals to make $300 a month, that's all you're going to make.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you're
Mm-hmm.
going to make. You're going to start thinking about, oh, I can make $10 an hour, like building this little widget gizmo and like sending those out every day in the evening. And if you start thinking about like, how can I make $3,000 a month or $30,000 a month, you're going to have a lot different ideas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the actually the first book that I ever read was The Magic of Thinking Big.
Great book.
Yeah, guys, if you haven't read it yet, go ahead and absolutely get it. And if while you're at it, Also get Tony's book. You'll have a link in the description where you can find it on Amazon. And yeah, Tony, you also have a podcast, right?
Correct.
When did you start that?
Just over 2 months ago, I started the podcast, but it was a project that took a year to make. And the reason why is because had I started it a year ago, so honestly, I've only been doing the public public speaking and the motivational post and helping people publicly on business. Although I've been doing it for the last 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
I've only been doing it in public for the last, I guess, a little over a year. I started in June of last year, 2017. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, you know what? I have a passion for this. I've got clients that I've helped build 7 and 8 figure companies, and they keep telling me like, you should be doing this full time and walk away from your oil and gas boring career. And I started to like be like, man, it's hard to walk away from this high paying salary. I was making multiple 6 figures in oil,
Mm-hmm.
worked
Mm-hmm.
my way to that level. And you start to think about like, just like anybody else that's got a busy career, like, man, I can't walk away from that. I have all this time invested. I have the degree invested and I have this network invested.
Yeah.
And you talk yourself out of doing things that you actually love because you're getting paid well. That's how most people are. We get complacent when we get to a comfortable income range and you're less willing to take risks to go actually do things you actually love. And I was like, that's just not me. It's like, I've always been eager to evolve into whoever I wanted to become. It's like, if in order for me to lead by example, I have to step out and go do this. I have to see it through. So I have a lot of passion for helping people and coaching people. But the podcast, man, it's like, you can't be a podcaster if you can't speak very well, or you can't have the vocal variety. You have to be a public speaker and someone else, that to engage the audience before you can just fire up the microphone. Because I'll tell you, when I first started, I joined Toastmasters, and it took me a good year to become the speaker that I needed to become
Mm-hmm.
to promote the book, to get on a stage. And when I started, I sucked, man. I was scared. I had the fears of public speaking, like the sweaty palms and the
Yeah.
armpits and in the body temperatures, and you start to get the sweat droplets on their forehead and like all these physiological things about fear of public speaking and being criticized and putting yourself out there and showing vulnerability. Like these are real things that most people have. That's why public speaking is the highest ranked fear other than death. So what do? You go attack that fear.
Mm-hmm.
You step into it, realize that it's a weakness of yours, and you train just like like your martial arts. You just train to get through something,
Yeah.
and
Great.
then you're so surprised at the end, like how good you can. So I had to think about this. I knew I wanted to do a podcast. I knew I wanted to write this book. I knew I needed to be on
Mm-hmm.
radio and TV, but I wasn't that person. I had to become that person.
I don't know how it was for you, but like for me, ever since I started interviewing people and just talking, reaching out to people and hearing their stories, it broadened my horizons so much. It enriched my experience so much, and it's awesome because you look to these people that you probably admire and you feel like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to do that. But the people who have been listening to the interviews ever since we began, I feel like everybody has a better understanding that everybody's human and everybody goes through this process. And the only difference is exactly what you said. One person thought bigger than the other. One person said, you know what, I want $3,000 a month, not 300. Yeah.
That's all it is. It's there. You'll find that there's very little difference in intelligence or knowledge or anything like that. There's so many excuses that people use to not start. And that is the only difference between
Yes.
successful and unsuccessful people is the people who actually did something.
Yes. Yes. And kept at it. Awesome.
Yeah. Persistence and persistence and consistency.
I love it. What would be one question for our listeners?
I would say that if you're sitting there and you're listening to this, hopefully it's reached you at some point. I know that we all have different messages. A lot of times we have a lot of the similar messages, but what I've learned from listening to podcasts and speakers and reading different books is sometimes the people that you're listening to in that moment say the message that you may have heard, but then it resonates with you at some like how come I have heard this my entire life, but Tony said it and now I really focused in on that. It's because you weren't ready to hear that message back then by whoever was telling you the first time. You weren't ready at that point. You may have been like, oh, that's cool. I'll keep that in mind. And then now there's some point in your life that you've reached that anybody that really gets to you, that they're going to be like, man, I really it's like awakening. Like you've heard it, but you didn't realize why you didn't take over it. So I would say if there's something that I've mentioned that inspires you to do something, or maybe makes you feel pain, that's even better. Like pain is a great indicator of what you should be doing. Like if something is causing you pain or self-doubt, like that's a great indicator. Pay attention to pain. And I would say that, challenge yourself. That's what I have to ask of you. Just get up, challenge yourself, and go after that pain. Figure out why it's causing you pain. Dig really deep, and then go find the solution to that.
I love how you went full circle with the martial arts analysis. Like if you're not moving on, it's because like you're not ready for it. So you need to spend a bit more time learning what you have to learn, and then you're gonna level up, and you're gonna learn the next technique, and so on and so forth. Awesome. Guys, go ahead and connect with Tony and wish him a happy birthday, because this episode will be coming out probably close to his birthday. So go ahead and connect with him over on Facebook and Instagram, and check out his book on Amazon. Absolutely. Tony, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, you can reach me on my website at 365driven.com, and you'll find all the links to my social, my book, everything's there for you. So thank you, and enjoyed being on your show.
Awesome. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you next time.
Cool.
Hey, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. And if you're ready for more financial freedom, for more time to spend with your loved ones, or doing what you're really, really, really passionate about, send me a message over social media, connect with me, links are in the description, and I will give you a free business breakthrough session where I will show you exactly how you can make your business more profitable so that you live a happy and fulfilled life with your loved ones. I'll see you soon.